What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another mock draft on the Sports Religion YouTube channel. Boy, have a lot of things changed with the Packers since we last did one of these. I mean, they went on an incredible run to close the season and eventually beat the Dallas Cowboys on the road in the playoffs, providing an incredible test for this young roster. There is so much to be excited about what the Packers already have on the roster, and then you couple it with the 11 draft picks they have this year in the upcoming draft, and it leaves so much to be excited for. The Packers are contenders at this point. I mean, they took the 49ers all the way to the wire. They boat raced the Cowboys in their own stadium when nobody was giving them a chance. Jordan Love clearly got better as the season went on. You know, a lot of other pieces got better as well, and just the improvement from a lot of these young guys, the work ethic that they all showed, and the focus on wanting to win and wanting to listen to each other on how to improve, you can really see it based on the product on the field. So that makes this draft much more pivotal for the Packers. They need to keep that sort of trend up, and they need to hit on all of their players in this draft as well. It just keeps making the team get younger. I mean, last year they were already one of the youngest teams to ever win a playoff game. So they're only going to get younger with these 11 draft picks that are coming up. So today we're going to be using the PFF Mock Draft Simulator as usual. The board for this has changed quite a bit as well as we learn more information about each of these players from the combine and what their relative athletic scores end up being as well. I kind of talked about this in the last mock draft, that the Packers really put an emphasis on drafting guys with high relative athletic scores. They really almost don't look at anybody that's not above a 9 relative athletic score, and if they do compromise on that, it's because there's other reasons, like either incredible production or just other kind of size traits that they look for when drafting guys. So 25 is kind of a difficult spot. It's not really, a premium in the first round. You're not guaranteed anybody. And, as you can see, Cooper DeJean does fall here. But there's been a lot coming out recently about how the league might not be as sure about what he's going to be in the NFL. Like, he played a lot of safety, a lot of corner in college. But which one is he going to be? A team looking for a lockdown corner will want him to play corner. So they'll take him high, but I just don't know. I don't know what the league really thinks of him, and it's why he's ranked 8 on PFF's board, but his average draft position is 20.7. So obviously people doing this mock know that as well and aren't drafting him as high as he is on the PFF board. So something that catches my eye right away, I mean, the Packers do need a safety and a linebacker, but after Tyler Nubin's pro day, he's not going to be a Packer. I mean, he just did not perform well at all at the Minnesota Pro Day, and you can almost cross him off right now based on that. I guarantee you they're not going to look at either of these top safeties in the draft because of just the way they performed at the Pro Day and during the Combine. And taking Peyton Wilson would fill a need. We do need a linebacker right away. But it's just first-round linebackers are always a big risk, and you can get other guys for a premium in the first round, whereas like linebackers you can kind of scout wherever. And I just don't think the Packers would really look at Peyton Wilson. He tested out of this world at the Combine, but he's got an extensive injury history. He's injured both of his shoulders, torn an ACL. So I just don't know. It's a very high risk. Jackson Powers-Johnson could instantly be an upgrade over Josh Myers and or compete for one of the guard spots. But I've been reading a lot that the league is not as high on Jackson Powers-Johnson as the media is. I mean, he had an incredible Senior Bowl and really showcased what he can be at the next level. But, a lot of the consensus big boards, which takes into account a lot of data from a lot of different sources, have not really been putting him even in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But, I really think the Packers need to take a tackle here or a corner, because if you don't get a tackle or corner at this spot, you're just not going to get a difference maker that can step in on day one and be your guy. If you're drafting a tackle here, it's because you think he can be better than Rasheed Walker on the left side. And Rasheed Walker had a great season and will likely continue to improve. But, a lot of the good tackles are gone here. It's Jordan Morgan and Kingsley Suamataia. I don't know if you want to reach on either of those guys. They're pretty far down the board from where 25 is. So for that reason, I'd rather look for corners here. And the one that, Kool-Aid McKinstry, TJ Tampa, Sainer still, all great players. But the one that I love the most of this group is TJ Tampa. Even if the Packers do not get him in this draft, he's going to be a stud for whoever drafts him. The tape says it all at Iowa State. He's a phenomenal player, and he would fit exactly what the Packers want to be. They want to have an aggressive secondary with Jeff Hafley coming in and changing the way they do things. He's a loud corner. He talks a lot, which would fit well, considering we already have Jair in the secondary who would, fit nicely with that dynamic. So I'm still just not going to take Tyler Nubin here. He's not athletic enough for what the Packers want. And it's interesting in this mock, like the tackles have really flown off the board, which sometimes you run through these and they kind of stay there. It all depends what happens earlier on. Like Washington taking Roger Rosengard in here is a massive reach. Like that's not something that's going to happen in real life. There's no way he goes at 40. He played terrible in the national championship game against Alabama or against Michigan, anyways. So, I mean, that's just an interesting pick by the system here. But for me, the Packers, I think, are going to start having to plan for life after Kenny Clark. It pains me to say that, but, he's under contract for next year. But after that, they're going to have to pay him Christian Wilkins type money to keep him on the roster. And the Packers have shown time and time again that they'd rather move off of a player too early than keep him too long. And Kenny Clark is a phenomenal player. He's done so much for this defense that you can't even really see in terms of statistics. But they got to start thinking about that, and we as fans have to be prepared that he might not be a Packer after this year, and that's just the reality of it. So I see a guy like Braden Fisk here, crazy athletic profile. I mean, he tore up the draft, and that's exactly what the Packers look for in a player. And, you're not reaching too far by getting him at, we're at 41 here, and he's a 39th ranked player on the prospect board. So I think this is a great pick, and it kind of prepares the Packers for the future of, dealing with Kenny Clark, because that's a huge loss to have, and I'm already prepared for it. Like, they're not going to be able to have the resources to pay him Christian Wilkins type money or Quinnen Williams type money on the open market. It's just not going to be feasible for them. So I think you prepare for that now by taking a phenomenal D tackle. Fisk, when he transferred from Western Michigan to Florida State, there were a lot of questions about how he'd adjust to that difference level in competition, and I think he did amazing this year. He was a force at Florida State. That front seven they had was really fun to watch with Jared Verse as well on the edge and some other guys, but he would fit right in to the Packers culture and their fast physical style of football that they want to play going forwards. So here at 58, again, Chris Jenkins being here is I would be perfectly fine if Chris Jenkins ended up being a Packer too. But, we already got Braden Fisk early on, so that's good value. I do think the Packers are an edge rusher short going into next year, so they could take Marshawn Kneeland here, and he actually profiles very well with what the Packers like. He's a similar size to what they have with Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary. Gutekunst has said on record many times that he likes the edge rushers to have size. Those outer linebackers need to be bigger guys in order for them to, feel comfortable in defending the run and rushing the passer at the same time. So that's a pick. He could very well be a Packer. I mean, I'm not going to select him here simply because I see Jaden Hicks, and I really want Jaden Hicks to be next to Xavier McKinney next year in the secondary. I mean, this guy plays out of his mind at Washington State. He is easily the leader of that defense. He was flying around making plays all season, and there's multiple years of tape on this too. Like he's really a playmaker for them, flying under the radar quite a bit compared to a lot of the other prospects in this draft. But the Packers, they've said on record too. Jeff Hafley said he wants playmakers, he wants leaders in this secondary, and what better way to do that than Jaden Hicks? And, you have him. You have Xavier McKinney, which was a phenomenal signing, by the way. Like, the Packers really hit it out of the park with that one. And then they're high on Anthony Johnson Jr. too, who was a 7th-round pick 2 years or last year. But that's a nice trio of safeties you can work with there once you got those guys all in the same room. And maybe they even bring Rudy Ford back too, because Rudy Ford actually fits pretty well in that defense. He doesn't need to do a whole lot, but he can make a play on the ball every so often. We've seen him get some interceptions, and make some plays. So, yeah, the safety room will be interesting for sure to see what happens there. And, now we're at 88, and they have 2 picks fairly close together, 88 and 91. So we can kind of key in on 2 of these guys. And here is where I absolutely love this string of interior linemen. I see 2 running backs here. Trey Benson's someone that the Packers could definitely draft, but I'd rather get, a solid lineman here instead of, grabbing a running back where you can find in any round. And I mean, even if they don't take a running back this round, the running back class for next year is absolutely stacked. They will have no problem finding a running back next year if they so choose, even early on in the draft. So at 88, I think I'm going to go with Cedric Van Pran here. I really am not a fan of the way Josh Myers has exactly been playing, but he's had good moments, but he would benefit from having competition for sure. And bringing Van Pran in, who's played on that Georgia line through all these SEC games for a couple of years now, would fit very well into what they want to do and what they want to maintain in terms of keeping Jordan Love on his feet. And then, Van Pran's a physical run blocker too, and that's something with Josh Jacobs coming in. You need a physical run blocking offensive line to run behind. So for that reason, absolutely happy with having Cedric Van Pran be a Packer. Convert that G into a green one, you know what I mean? That Gutekunst has drafted a lot of Georgia players as well over the last couple of years, so maybe that trend will continue. And then, I'm going to lead that right into drafting Mason McCormick here from South Dakota State. He had a crazy combine as well. I mean, I think he's well over a 9 relative athletic score, I think around a 9.96, which you love to see that. And, when a guard has that much athleticism, that means they can run downhill with not only speed, but also power. So when you're taking on blocks, you can't just look like, you're just like a featherweight. You just get knocked over by a linebacker or whatever. These guys that have that athletic profile really get downhill in a hurry and are able to climb to the next level of the defense and take out the linebacker, take out a safety, whoever is coming downhill. And so I think with, that, especially with the way the right guard situation's looking right now, maybe give Sean Rhyan some competition. Just competition breeds more success for a group like an offensive line where everybody's fighting for those spots and wanting to compete to be better. So having Van Pran and McCormick coming into that interior group, I think is a tremendous improvement. That room is going to be so much better if we were to draft those 2 guys. And, Van Pran may not be as athletic as what the Packers look for, but McCormick certainly is. And they'll definitely be scouting him for sure based on, the numbers he put up at the combine. So fully expect him to be a Packer if we get the opportunity to draft him. So now at 126, I think, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted a tackle at some point. Like the situation they have on the line, you can never have enough linemen, and you always need tackles to kind of fill in. And, I see Mohamed Kamara here as another edge rusher that I really liked. Just watched the game against Colorado. He absolutely ruined that game for Shedeur Sanders. I know they didn't win, but he was a force that entire game. And, he's really is a sack artist. He's got huge sack numbers throughout his career. I think he had 12.5 last year, something like that. So either of these 2 guys I would love to see as a Packer. Otherwise, the running back I would take is Isaac Guerendo. Honestly, fits the profile of what the Packers would look for as a running back. He ran a 4.33 40-yard dash. He's 6'1", so he's got plenty of size, and that's just a rare combination. You don't find a lot of guys like that. So any of those guys I'd be really fine with taking here. I think the one that would work the best, though, for the Packers right now would be Christian Jones, just to get another tackle in the room. And, ensure you lost Yosh Nijman to free agency this year, and he was your swing tackle. He was your guy you could kind of put anywhere and rely on him because he was very high upside player for being an undrafted free agent. And so now that he's on the Panthers, it's going to be tough if they ever need to have some sort of platoon on the offensive line for injury reasons or performance reasons. So I just think they need to keep throwing the dartboard at these offensive linemen, and who's honestly been better at doing that than Green Bay? It's like Detroit, Philadelphia. Those are the teams that have been up there with the Packers at drafting linemen. And so if anyone could find a steal in this draft, it's definitely going to be Green Bay. So I'm happy with that. I think, Christian Jones also did have a great Senior Bowl as well. Put up a lot of great tape there against some good edge rushers. So, yeah, that's a great pick. James Williams intrigues me a lot. He's a 6'5" safety. Played next to Cam Kinchens at Miami. He's a huge hitter. He was a 5-star recruit, heavily recruited out of high school by everyone. And, the problem is like, how does a 6'5" safety move in the NFL compared to NFL speed? So I think there's been a lot of buzz about him converting to a linebacker. And I don't know that the Packers really want a guy like that who's a safety turned into a linebacker. But they do have a huge hole at linebacker for sure. And so that's what I'm kind of looking for here. There's some intriguing guys here. You could definitely take, Braden McGregor. You could get another edge guy here if you wanted to. Tip Ryman tested off the charts as a tight end. Might be somebody the Packers are looking at as well. There's just this is kind of no man's land. You kind of choose what you want to choose here. And another thing that Packers fans are going to have to prepare themselves for, and I can guarantee you this, is that they are going to draft a quarterback this year. Not to replace Jordan Love, but they don't want to be caught in a situation where Love gets hurt and, it's Brett Hundley all over again or DeShone Kizer all over again. They are in such a window of being able to win now that they can't have that. They need a guy to come in for a few games and still be competitive. And so be prepared for that. Whether it's Joe Milton, whether it's Spencer Rattler, whether it's Pratt from Tulane, they're going to pick one of those guys. And, people aren't going to be happy about it, but it is what it is. And, in the end, that's what's best for the team is to have a quarterback who can come in like that. And he may never really get starting reps, but say Love gets hurt, he comes in, proves himself for a few games. You could easily scam another team into giving you draft picks for him. It's just more draft capital that you could be getting down the road in a couple of years. So all I'm saying, I'm not going to take Joe Milton here because I don't want him, but be prepared for that. The Packers are definitely going to draft a quarterback here in this, potentially even in this round. So I'm not going to be surprised when that happens, and neither should you. But I think the time is now for an edge player here. So Jalen Harrell, Braden McGregor, kind of a horse apiece. They're both from the same defense. I'm just looking to see if there's any other linebackers that might be worth it. I don't really like Steel Chambers too much. He's a converted running back who played linebacker for most of his career, and there's better options that the Packers could potentially even still look for in free agency and whatnot. So I'm going to go with Braden McGregor here. Get another edge rusher in this room. A guy who's used to playing in high levels of defense. Michigan has always had great defenses the last 3 years, and him being a part of that is just more experience, more live reps that another prospect might not have. So I think that's a good pick. And, Kingsley Enagbare is rehabbing a torn ACL that he tore against the 49ers. So he will not be back for probably about half the season. And, you can't go that long with just 3 edge rushers. One of those guys will either get hurt or, the best teams have rotational pass rushers. So adding an edge player here is something that I am 100% in favor of, and I think that the Packers might honestly also look for that as well when they're going through. So, we already have our running back picked. The guy I'm going to take here is Johnny Dixon. He started his career at South Carolina and transferred to Penn State later on, and he was opposite of King, their other phenomenal corner. They were kind of one of the better corner duos in the country, actually. And I think that the Packers could use another corner. Just the more corners you have, the better. We already saw what Carrington Valentine can do. I think we've seen what Eric Stokes can do if he can come back to what his rookie year looked like. And we all know Jair is going to be locked down no matter what happens around him. So just keep adding corners, keep having more high upside guys there. And, I really like Johnny Dixon as a player. He's a pretty physical corner, too. So, that'll fit into what motivates, he's exactly what they want to go towards in terms of a secondary. So, and now they do have 3 late-round picks like this, and these are kind of picks I'd look to package, honestly, in a trade if they're going to move up just to kind of get rid of them. But it's all kind of what else we need here. I might honestly take another safety and Trey Taylor, really athletic guy, played for Air Force, which isn't the craziest program in the world to put out NFL guys, but Tanner Bortolini, guy with a crazy athletic profile, tested out of this world at the combine, but I don't know. I've seen enough of him at Wisconsin. He really doesn't snap the ball with very much velocity, kind of floats it to the quarterback. So I don't think that's something the Packers honestly are looking for outside of his athletic profile. And during the Senior Bowl, he really got just bowled over by a lot of the D linemen that he was facing. But so the Packers could look at him just because of his athletic profile. I just don't think that he's really worth picking up right now, especially since we've got other interior linemen on the roster. So I'm just gonna take a shot here on Trey Taylor, add another safety. You'd like to be at 4 safeties. I think that's the number that works best for having a good rotation and having enough depth, and kind of accounting for them potentially not bringing Rudy Ford back. So with that, we move on to pick 245. And again, there's nothing to. You're not looking to accomplish crazy things with these picks. You're just kind of taking shots. And so this is where I'm going to end up taking Nathaniel Watson out of Mississippi State way later than I'd like to take a linebacker. However, that's just how this kind of worked out, and it may work out that way for the Packers on draft night too. And Nathaniel Watson really had a good Senior Bowl. He looked really aggressive. He looked fast. He looked like he was able to diagnose plays super well. And that was something that kind of stuck with me after watching that. A lot of these guys, you can tell a lot at the Senior Bowl because they're not playing with the same guys. You know what I mean? They're not with all of their teammates that they're familiar with and know exactly where this guy's going to be at this certain time. They're out with other guys from a variety of different backgrounds with a lot of different experience, and their success at the Senior Bowl can directly show how well they'll play in the NFL because of their ability to mesh with different teammates. And clearly Nathaniel Watson, he's not going to have the crazy athletic tools that a lot of the other linebackers might have. However, I think that he's an aggressive physical linebacker who can give you more than what Isaiah McDuffie is. And that's all you're looking for, just a guy who can one-up Isaiah McDuffie, because right now the linebacking room is Quay Walker, McDuffie, and they brought back Eric Wilson. So that's your 3 linebackers at the moment, and you got to add somebody, even if it's a late round pick, like this. So this is down to the last pick, and Kingsley Iguakin is a good interior lineman, but we've already addressed that. ZTF could be some nice edge rushing depth here. I would honestly, this isn't a need for the Packers because of what we saw from Musgrave and Kraft last year. But Jared Wiley did have a really good combine, and he's also huge. He's 6'7", so he's, exactly the physical profile the Packers would target. And I'm not a huge fan of Tyler Davis, if I'm being honest, as the third tight end. So I would almost rather draft a 7th-round tight end and, have them do everything that they had planned for Tyler Davis and get cheaper. You don't have to, Tyler Davis will be a free agent next year, and you're going to have to pay him. So you can reset that window by drafting a rookie here, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I know PFF isn't going to like that draft. They're going to give that a horrible grade, but that's kind of what happens when you do what's best for the team rather than what a third party has identified the needs of the team as. So, yeah, obviously it doesn't like me reaching for TJ Tampa. I don't care. He's an amazing player, and if the Packers were to get him, instantly going to be a phenomenal player who will push for a starting role and be a leader on the defense. So that's absolutely a guy that if he comes home a Packer after this draft, everyone should be happy about. That's going to be a win right there. And then obviously Braden Fisk for that athletic profile, and we don't really need a D lineman in terms of depth right now, but you're future-proofing that contract that you're going to have to give Kenny Clark because he's going to be paid top dollar by someone, and I don't think that's going to be Green Bay. So you never know with that. It's just you can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough interior pressure. And then Jaden Hicks I love, and that's, he'll be an instantly, applicable guy into this lineup. He'll be right next to McKinney, and he'll be getting a lot of reps in this defense. So, overall, I think it's a pretty solid draft, and we did a good job accounting for the athleticism of these guys because that's what the Packers look for in these drafts. They really look for that athletic profile and how you've tested, whether it's at a pro day or the combine. So, I'm going to keep doing these until the draft happens. We got about a month left for that, and couldn't be more excited, honestly, about the young players that the Packers are looking at and scouting. We got to trust the front office and understand that they have very strict processes on how they evaluate guys, and this team's ready to win now. So I'm excited to see if they draft like they're ready to win now, or if they kind of slack off on it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and tune in the future for more content like this, and I will keep making mock drafts like this, maybe do some film study as well of prospects that the Packers pick. So with that, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video.